everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So in this video I wanted to share with you guys two life-changing lessons that I learned in premarital couples counseling. No, it is not clickbait. Just as what the thumbnail said, yes, the counselor did suggest that my husband and I break up. After he assessed our relationship, I'm going to share the grounds in which he came to this conclusion. If you're new to my channel, hi, welcome. My name is Lois Raymond, and on this channel, I'm all about helping and serving you navigate your life as a godly young woman, wife, and mother. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel so that whenever I post a video, you will always be notified of it, so that I can be encouraged to always do videos to add value to your life. Okay, so before I go into the lessons, I need to lay the foundation. Please do not skip. Don't press that 10 seconds button. You need to watch every single thing that I'm about to say, because it's like I'm building, all right? And each point that I bring is crucial and is relevant to the other point that I'm going to make. Okay, so at the point in time of my father's ministry, so my father is a pastor of the church, a lot of young people, there was a season where a lot of young people were getting saved, especially the young men. At that time in our church, there was a lot of young ladies, but very few young men in the ministry. And now God just started to save a lot of young men. Yes, there were young ladies that got saved, but compared to the ratio, I mean, it was a lot of young men that were really on fire for God, had an encounter with God, got saved. And in that season, because of that, a lot of coupling started to take place. A lot of young people in the ministry started to couple off, started to date. And because of this, at the same time, there was this professional counselor that joined our ministry. My dad known him from years ago. He was very credible, very experienced, and very well learned. As I said, he was a professional counselor. So he spoke to my dad and said, "Hey, I noticed there's a lot of young people that are getting into relationships. They are courting, they are dating. Why don't I just assess those relationships and see, if they are healthy, or if it's toxic, if they should break up or whatever." So my father agreed to it. Thank God he did agree to it, because for me, I find that it was a good move, a good initiative. So the process started, and he started counseling many young couples in the ministry. Around this time, my husband and I would have been married not married. We would have been courting for about 4 years, going on 5 years. So I was like about 20 years old, 21 years old at that point in time. So now he reached out to us, and now of course, as even though my dad is a pastor, I'm his daughter, so of course he wants this counselor to assess our relationship. So we started the counseling, and it went well. Okay, so he would assess our relationship. He started asking us different questions, our background, our sexual history, our culture, how we grew up, and different things like that. I would say that it was very professionally done. It was not intrusive to the point that you felt uncomfortable, but he was just really gathering information and gathering data, I guess, to make his analysis. But it was, we did this counseling session for like a good 6 weeks or something like that, right? So the first thing that he taught us that really stood out to me, and that just left an imprint in my heart, is that he spoke about how relationships, whether you're dating, you're courting, or relationships, it goes through different stages. And there are 5 stages, there are 5 levels, and sometimes most couples don't even make it to the 3rd level. And each level, there's not like a set time to how long you could stay in this stage or in this level, it really depends on the couples. So the first stage is the honeymoon stage, or some like to call it the infatuation stage. And what is infatuation? What is the meaning of infatuation? It's a strong feeling or admiration for someone. And it can have the illusion of love, like you could feel as though you're in love with this person, but it can be an illusion and it can just be infatuation. So in this stage, it's full of excitement. There is this strong attraction that you have for this person. You're longing to be with this person. There is laughter. You're forming a connection with this person. You're bonding. The chemistry is on point. You're showing each other your ideal self. So you're leaning on your strengths. So you are patient, you are caring, you are empathetic, you are understanding, you are caring. You're showing this person the best side of who you are. And nothing is wrong with this. It's natural as a part of the mating process. You would see these peacocks, the male peacocks, when they see another peacock that they like, you know, their feathers, it shows up and you see how beautiful it is. Or if you watch the Animal Planet, you would see these birds. I remember one time I was watching, and these birds, when they mating, they puff out their chest and they begin to sing very loudly. So it's just making yourself, you're showing the person the best side of you. You're charming and it's wonderful. You're excited. There is butterflies, there's excitement, there's an attraction there, you know. You're giddy, you're head over heels. And I remember in this stage, and it's so true that he said, like, my husband and I, we would talk for hours from 6 in the evening to 6 the next morning, every single day for like about 3 to 4 months. Every single day we would just be talking on the phone, laughing, just pouring our hearts out to each other. We're sharing our experiences, sharing the things that we've been through. There's a bond. Basically, it's like a soul tie being developed there. You're bonding, you're connecting, and it's just fun and just beautiful and exciting. But then you move from the honeymoon stage into stage number 2, which they call the power struggle. So what happens? The fairy dust begins to settle and the scales are now removed from your eyes. So now you begin to see this person in their totality, and their flaws and their imperfection begins to surface. So their insufficiencies, their insecurities, their inconsistencies, their trauma, red flags, their character, their bad habits, their attitude, all of these things begins to show. So in this stage, your differences begins to be highlighted, and now is where you begin to compete for control, influence, and power. And again, I could definitely relate to this, because I remember after we came out from the honeymoon season or the honeymoon stage, and we began to just be real and authentic with each other, and our bad ways started to show. I mean, there was this power struggle because we came out from 2 totally different cultures. Yes, even though we were from the same country, from the same location, from the same region, I mean, we grew up in different ways. I grew up sheltered with a nuclear family, whereas my husband, he grew up in a single parent home. He had to like really work and sacrifice and work for what he had. So because of the 2 dynamics just being totally different and coming just from different realities, there is where we really began to clash. Our perspectives of the world was different. Our lives were different. So because of that, they begin to clash. And I remember many times, you know, my husband used to say the same, like, who's wearing the pants in this relationship? Because there's this conflict, there's always this back and forth. As they rightfully said, there is like this power struggle between us. So I can definitely relate to it. And a lot of times what happened in this stage is because you have unrealistic expectations from the first stage, the honeymoon stage. This person is not meeting the expectations that I had of them in the honeymoon stage. So this is the reason why he said that most couples don't even go to the third stage is because after this point, it's like you reach a crossroad in your relationship that you have to decide, with all the information that I have about this person, about myself, with everything that I know about this relationship, should we go forward or should we dissolve this relationship and go our separate ways? So stage number 3 is acceptance and adaptation. So for the rare few that actually make it to the stage, now they have accepted their partner for who they really are, not who they are potentially, not their potential, but the reality of who they are right now, their imperfections, their flaws. You have accepted this person, not the person in your mind or in your imagination or who you see them in the future, but you have accepted the person now for who they are, and you embrace or adapt to those differences. So you decide to love them anyway, and you accept their quirks, their flaws, their character, their lifestyle. You just accept them and you just choose to just go forward, push forward. Stage number 4 is commitment. You are all in. At this point, you have accepted the person for who they are and what they have done. You have accepted their past, their present, the circumstances, their lifestyle. You are all in. So now this person becomes your ride or die. Through hell or high waters, we're going to make this thing work. I am fully committed to you. I'm devoted to you. You know, you are my soulmate. You're the one that I love forever. At this stage in your relationship has been tested. It have went through the fire. It have been pruned. It have been tried. And you guys have both sailed through many storms together in life. And the last stage is oneness. So this stage is where you have a deep connection with each other. And it's like you are intertwined with each other. You are one. You share a profound level of understanding for your mate. You share the same values, and you have the ability now to anticipate each other's needs. When I think about this stage, I think about, there's couples where you look at them over the years, and it's like, wow, you guys are so one that you resemble each other. You look alike, like you guys look like brother and sister. Or sometimes you would see a wife or you would see a husband, and it's like, wow, you talk just like your husband. It's like your language change. You start to take on the mannerisms of the person you are dating. Even sometimes in this level of oneness, you can be thinking about your husband and then he calls you. This takes me to lesson number 2, the second lesson that I learned. Okay, so after the counselor had assessed our relationship, it was the final session where he would tell us, should we break up or is this a healthy relationship? He would have given us some counseling and now given us some guidance on what to do next. So the last counseling session, after he had spoken to us and everything like that, he said, okay, you guys have 2 options. The first option is that you guys break up. Call off this relationship. The reason being, he said, now, I have assessed your relationship and I am very impressed with you guys as a couple. Your relationship, it have thrived in uncertainties, through adversity, through different seasons. You have thrived and you guys have excelled. And now your relationship has reached a point of maturity. Now, might I add, now this is a Christian counselor. So his practice is based on the word of God. Even though there are theories or different things like that, his counseling or his advice is based on the word of God because he's a Christian counselor. And he was very much impressed of the fact that we had not had sex throughout the years of us being together. And so he was very impressed, and he was saying that our relationship had reached a stage of maturity. And because our relationship had reached the stage of maturity, there is the final stage, that stage number 5, that our relationship will need for us to enter into, and that's the stage of oneness. He said, oneness not only means having a deep connection emotionally, but also physically and through intimacy, through sex. And he was basically saying your relationship has reached the point where it needs intimacy. And in order to achieve that intimacy, your relationship is now calling for sex. Yes. So he said, that's why I said you need to break up. He said, if you don't break up, 2 things can happen. Number 1, think about a car, and let's think about a manual car. Okay, so you're driving, you're going up the highway, you're driving. All right, you put the gear in 1. Okay, then you begin to accelerate in speed. The car is calling for gear number 2. Good, you put the gear number 2. You start to accelerate more in speed. Number 3, accelerate more. Number 4, your gas pedal is now about to touch the roof of the floor of the car because you're going all in, right? And your car is balling, the engine is balling for that gear number 5. It's balling. Come on, it's calling for that gear number 5. You're speeding going down and you're not shifting the gear. You're not shifting the gear. What's going to happen is that you're going to damage the engine because you're supposed to shift to gear number 5. The engine is crying and bawling for gear number 5, and you're not shifting the gear. So he said that's what's going to happen. Your relationship is calling for that gear number 5, the ultimate gear. And what's going to happen, like a strainer, because it's not getting that, it's going to be like loopholes. And it's going to what's going to happen in your relationship, you're going to start to get frustrated with each other. You're going to start to have a lot of conflicts, unnecessary conflicts. You're going to start to just argue and just become so frustrated in your relationship because you're starving yourself of that need. You're starving your relationship of that need, which only you can get in gear 5. Now, of course, sex was not an option for us before we get married. So he said, what will happen eventually? This relationship, it will eventually self-destruct. Eventually, it will self-destruct because it has reached the stage of maturity, and it's calling for that intimacy. It's calling for that oneness, and you are starving it of that. So because of that, eventually you will self-destruct. He said, if that don't happen, the second thing that could happen, the second option, is that eventually you guys will give in and have sex. He said, I don't care. I know you guys are spiritually strong. You know, you love the Lord. You have great character and whatever. But eventually you will fall into that sin, into that trap, and you will have sex. So that's why he told us the first option you have is to break up this relationship. Otherwise, it's either you all will self-destruct. It's just a matter of time where you will self-destruct, and it's like you'll be eating, this relationship will just be eating itself till it decompose. Or eventually you will give in to that temptation, and now you will enter into stage number 5 prematurely. He said, my other option, which I highly recommend and I'm more leaning into, is that you get married. And like how this counselor talk is like he wanted for us, if we could have get married that day, that moment, he was like, I am rooting for you guys. Your relationship is very healthy. You have a very strong foundation. You have gone through the different levels. You guys are very, like, I am rooting for you guys. I highly recommend this relationship. He was so impressed by his analysis and his assessments. I mean, I remember that day he was like, okay, Raymond, like, where do you work? At the time, Raymond, he was working at a job. It was not stable at all. I mean, there were days where he would work and there were days he would not work. And he was like, okay, what are the options? And he was really trying to first to figure out, Lois, what are your options? You know, what about, okay, could you guys rent and then you buy land? Like, he was really like in it and really trying to see how best we can just get married and get married soon. Now, for me, one of the things was that I knew that I would get married to Raymond, but I was like 20. I was 21 years old. I'm thinking that I'm still young. I'm too young to get married, you know, and at that age, we didn't have money, you know, we were now starting our lives. But the next year, so we had that counseling session September, and the next year is where we were like, okay, breaking up is not an option for us. The year after, we sat down and we started to really put goals into place, and really started to plan on getting engaged. We had planned to get engaged by December. We actually got engaged. Raymond actually proposed the March, and the rest was history. The Lord just started to pave ways for us and just open doors for us. So that's in a nutshell the two lessons that I learned in premarital couples counseling, and I hope that it had blessed you the way it blessed me. So thank you guys so much for watching my video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.